Hey everyone. So as most, if not all of you probably know by this point, the Democratic National Convention is currently going on. And I should probably do a separate video about this entirely, but we don't even really need party conventions anymore, because back in the olden days when political parties first established in the U.S., like late 1700s, they needed party conventions because all the party leaders would gather together and pick the presidential candidate for their party. But now, the candidate is decided by primaries, which, by the way, it used to be an insult to have to run a primary election to be nominated for president, because if you were running a primary, that they initially were invented to prove to party bosses that a candidate actually had some merit among the people and could win. So really, if you think about it, it's insulting to have, or it's sort of an insult for a candidate to have to do that if we're sticking by the old system. But since now the U.S. election system has shifted pretty much entirely to the use of primaries, with conventions really being more formality. Like the candidates run the primary elections, and then the voters pick who they want to nominate for their party. And then everyone packs it up, goes to the convention, and officially crowns somebody the nominee of the Democratic or the Republican Party. And then the other thing they do there is have a bunch of people speak, which, I mean, we hear the speech. You don't really need to use the convention for speeches. If they want to give a speech, they could just do it elsewhere. Or post it on the internet. Like, I'm making a video and posting it on the internet. I'm pretty sure they can do that this way too. And the only other thing they really do is just draft the party platform, which is important. It's important for a political party to draft its campaign platform for the year to make sure everyone knows what they stand for, what they're running on, etc., etc., etc. But that doesn't really need to be done at a big convention. They don't really need to pull out all the stops. They could literally just have a bunch of people go to a meeting room at a hotel or something in Washington and just drop a list and then be done, and then just publish it. That is literally all they need to do. My point is, there's no need to do a convention anymore, really. But since conventions happen, might as well talk about 3 reasons why I think Joe Biden is a terrible choice to nominate for president, especially, and I'll make sure, and this is going to become especially clear with my third point, especially for the Democratic Party. He is not the candidate to run. No way, no how is he a good candidate especially for their party. And, I mean, there's really no other choice to nominate at this point, because every other candidate for the Democratic side has dropped out of the race. And so to nominate anyone, for the party to actually pick someone else to be a candidate, there would be mass uproar among Democratic voters who would say that the elites are overriding the will of the people, which they are. But which could bring us to an entire argument on, elite democracy versus mass democracy. But again, entirely another video. If you want me to do that, tell me in the comments, or really any video suggestion at all, post in the comments. I will check it. I'll check it out, and I will do it. As long as it's political, of course. Please, no jokes. Okay, but now to the reasons. Reason number 1 why Joe Biden is a bad pick for the Democratic Party candidate. He's just too old. I mean, even if he was a Republican, he's still too old. He's 76 years old now. That is a bit too old for most jobs. I know one of my professors actually told me once that at college that campaign gaffes are a thing that Joe Biden's always done. Yeah, but still, I think there is a chance. I'm not gonna say for sure that Joe Biden has any mental issue, but from watching him on stage, he doesn't always seem to be the most coherent of speakers or anything like that. And so it makes me wonder sometimes, is he really mentally fit to be president? I mean, it's legit. I'm not trying to rip on Joe Biden here. Well, I mean, I kind of am, but I'm really concerned for his health, actually. If he's president, I want a president who's actually going to be strong enough to lead the country. I don't want a guy who's propped up on meds just to survive. So, because that's not a strong public figure. The president is supposed to be, someone strong, someone confident, someone tough, someone who can actually get things done. And if we have an old guy who can't remember his lines half the time, it doesn't inspire me with much confidence in the political system. That may just be me. That could be my opinion. Could totally be that. But I mean, I think we can do better than a 76-year-old guy who's been in politics since the early 1970s, for crying out loud. I mean, I remember how viciously his now running mate Kamala Harris tore into him at the debates. The stuff she was ripping on him for were laws he helped pass in the 1970s. And there are some. What cracked me up is that there are people on the debate stage, like for example Pete Buttigieg, who weren't even born when those things happened. I mean, neither was I, but I just think it's funny that we have candidates debating the merits of each other's policies when some of those candidates weren't even born yet to actually experience those. That I think is just kind of funny. Reason number 2 why Joe Biden is a bad presidential candidate. He doesn't seem to stick to his opinions on any issues. Like, Joe Biden has an extensive political record, as I've already said. But now, whenever he speaks or whenever he tweets or whenever he talks about what he plans to do as president, he seems to be going back. He seems to be just pretty much going with whatever the general mood of the party is. Which I suppose there could be some virtue in that, because it's what this party wants him to do. But as president, if you're running for president, shouldn't you have a lot of strong opinions on things, and the vast majority of which you're not going to compromise on? Because otherwise, what's the point of voting for you? Why don't you vote for any of the other clowns in your political party? Why not? My question on that is, why should I vote for Joe Biden as opposed to literally any other Democrat, politician or not? Why should I vote for, say, random Joe Democrat walking down the street? Why not? He could actually be better than Biden. I think it's a bad sign. I think if someone's just bending to the will of the party and doing what, and his opinions basically seem to be like whatever the party says. He's like, yeah, I'm into that too. No, don't do that. I mean, yes, you're gonna want to go along with your party to some extent, obviously, so you can get secure your party's backing. But you should have stronger opinions on things. Be willing to stand up to fellow squabbling members of your party. I really didn't like it when Joe Biden buckled so easily to Kamala Harris in the presidential debates. I was like, dude, come on, stand up for yourself. I mean, yeah, he's made some mistakes as president, and yes, not as president. I mean, as a politician before, but is watching him in the debates it's almost like watching his a regret video. He's just saying all the things he regrets doing office. Doesn't he have at least one thing? One law that he passed or whatever, one single bill that he helped author or get through Congress or whatever that he's proud of? Does he have anything at all he's proud of? Anything at all. But it does bother me a little bit that he doesn't seem to be, strongly standing on any particular issues. He seems to just be going with the flow. Now, the third reason why I think Joe Biden is a terrible presidential candidate is the one that's specific really more to the Democratic Party. And that is that he doesn't seem to embody any of the principles that his own party claims to stand for. For instance, he's an old white man. Now, I personally don't have a problem with an old white man being president, or being a presidential candidate even. That doesn't bother me. But from what it sounded like back even a few months ago, plenty of people were up in arms about having that old white guy being president. I mean, we have an old white guy now, Donald Trump. The most U.S. presidents have been middle-aged or old white guys. A few of them are young. There was one black man. But yeah, old white guys have been the dominant thread one of the dominant threads of U.S. presidents. And so now the Democratic Party had well over 24 people, I think got up to 26 people at the peak amount of people running for president for this election. And they narrowed it down to Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, the two oldest, whitest people they could find. And then eventually now it's just Joe Biden. Which makes little sense. Because there are plenty of other candidates who believed more or less the same things as they did. And for a party that claims to care so much about diversity, they're not picking that diverse of a choice here. Not at all. They picked Joe Biden? Really? Also, he's a little bit too moderate for a party that claims to want to lurch far, far to the political left. And so, while there's nothing inherently wrong with being a political moderate, but when your party makes such a big deal about being progressive, you'd think they'd pick, a progressive to be president. Because the presidential candidate and then eventually the president is supposed to be like the leader of their party. They're like the ones that carry out the party's vision, carry the party to the future, help implement all the ideas because they're a top dog. And so a party that wants so badly to be progressive, or at least says they do, to pick a moderate makes no sense. None. I mean, even Bernie Sanders would be a better pick, or Elizabeth Warren, or Pete Buttigieg, or Kamala Harris. But Joe Biden? No. And I'll bet that that the reason why he's doing so well is probably because he's just a leftover relic of the Obama administration. Like, come on, again, for a party that claims to be all about new and fresh, you'd think they'd pick someone who's not old and a holdover from a previous administration. That is what I think. And also, a lot of, for a party that claims to care so much about reforming the police system and the prison system, they would do well to remember that Joe Biden was a key author of the current, of some of the current criminal systems in place now. The big 90s criminal reform, a lot of that was Joe Biden. And he worked with segregationists during the early 70s. Again, reminder that he's been in politics for half a century. I think it's time for him to retire. Just go do something else. Anything. Do something else. Not politics. But no, he's worked. He has been with. He's been working segregationists in the 70s, and now he says he regrets all those things he did. And first of all, again, why don't you stand up for yourself and think of something that you were proud of from your political history? And really, and to all you Democrats, why don't you pick a presidential candidate who wasn't the author, or co-author, I should say, of many of the systems you now claim to hate, and who also actually has a spine and stands up for himself. For people who know me, this might come as a shock, but I would much rather have Bernie Sanders be president than Joe Biden. That is an easy pick for me. Because at least Bernie Sanders actually stands for something. At least he actually, at least he knows what he's doing. At least he has ideas of his own and opinions of his own. And he doesn't regret every single political decision he ever made. At least he's strong-willed. At least he has his head on straight. And that is my video on why Joe Biden is a bad presidential candidate. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below if you have any opinions on this video. I will gladly debate them with you. And if you have any political opinions that you would like me to discuss, then let me know in the comments, and I will get back to you on that. Have a good day.